I'm going to call the Springfield City Council work session to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Councilor Weber. Here. Councilor Moe.
Here.
Councilor Rodley. Here. Councilor Blackwell. Here. Councilor Doyle. Here. And Councilor Stout.
Here, thank you.
We have two work session items this evening. The first one is the Arts Commission Annual Report to City Council with Mindy Linder. And I'm assuming you brought some folks from the Arts Commission.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and City Councilors, City Leadership. My name is Mindy Linder. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the Springfield Public Library and History Museum, and I am also the Staff Liaison for the Arts Commission. It is my pleasure to introduce to you one current and one former member who are here to share with you an update of their activities that they've been accomplishing on behalf of Council and the City of Springfield over the last several years. So please join me in welcoming Vice President Keith Bennett and our former Vice President T. Nguyen.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us this evening. I'd like to spend a couple minutes with you to kind of give you an idea of what your art commissioners have been up to over the last couple of years. First thing that I want to call to everyone's attention, I'm not Meredith, and neither is T. I got to notice about 2 o'clock this afternoon, Meredith was a little bit under the weather. So one of the many things that we do for each other as our commissioners is back each other up. So I am here to do that. My name is Keith Bennett. I'm a professional artist. I've been one of the art commissioners now for about 10 months. My co-presenter is...
I was an arts commissioner for, for the last 4 years.
Okay. Which way are we going here? On the side? Thank you. There we go. All right. Thank you. So what we want to go over is just a few of these things about the Art Commission itself, the art walks, some of the marketing, the Heritage Arts grants, community engagement, public art, and then we'll have a wrap up with questions and answers. We like to kind of keep it really loose and open. And if you want to ask things as we go through the slides, please feel free to do so. So this is your current list of your art commissioners. We come from all walks of life in Springfield, and we help to bring a diverse set of perspectives and skills to the commission. And this is a fun group. Like I said, I've been working with them now for 10 months and really enjoy my time I spend with these folks because they're just amazing people, individuals. So let's start with a little bit about the downtown Springfield, the second Friday Art Walks. And we do this in partnership with the Emerald Arts Center. Every month, the SAC provides a stop on the Springfield Second Friday Art Walk. The art walks are generally well attended, and we have been having attendance ranging anywhere from 50 to 150 people for each of the art walks. It's a great opportunity for folks to chat with the artists, mix with the art commissioners, and actually enjoy some live music as well. And this happens every second Friday from 5 to 7, right out here in the City Hall Gallery. So here's a few shots from one of the, thank you, from one of the art walks we had this summer, and we happen to have a harpsichordist playing in this one. We have different musicians and different groups that come in that actually perform for these. So it's a nice mix of visual and performing arts. Back up. All right. So Springfield City Hall Gallery is a special place for local artists to showcase their work. Oftentimes, this reception is sometimes the artist's very first art show, which is kind of fun to work with them. We give them that opportunity to immerse themselves into being able to talk and display their work. We select artists through a competitive application process that takes place in the fall. In 2023, we had our biggest year yet with 41 submissions. from artists to show in the gallery. We didn't have quite that many this year for the 2024 year, but overall, visibility and interest in showing at the gallery has continued to increase over the years. We hired musicians to play at each of the Art Walk reception. Musicians are chosen through an open call. They complete an online application. We make that database of musicians available to the artist, and the artists then get to select the musicians that they would like for their Art Walk reception. An eventual goal is to make this musician database available to the community for anyone who is seeking musicians for different types of events. And the reason we did this is because in the past, we've actually had several of our businesses during Art Walk have come to us and said, you know, we'd like to have a musician out in front of our business during the Art Walk. And that's what kind of gave us that idea to create this database, so it gives the musicians more opportunity to play in the community as well. We're also looking to building community relations through what we call is our call to bakers. Bakers, as you know, we haven't quite finalized this one yet, but the plan is to try to recruit local bakers and food-related businesses who might be interested in providing refreshments for our Art Walk receptions. We think this would be a great win-win situation for everyone. We would be able to serve better snacks at the receptions, and the local food businesses would get exposure to promote their product and the community members. So all of these types of ongoing events at the City Hall Gallery are fostering a growth of art awareness and interest in our communities. Now, here's a couple of shots from some of the shows that we've had up in the City Hall Gallery. Currently, we have Kenji, who is a photographer. We've had fiber art artists showing. We've had 3D art artists showing. Of course, we have painters and drawing. And so we have a wide variety of art to hopefully get everybody's attention and help everyone to be interested in what's going on down here. When artists come in, this is the really fun part. We help hang their show with their input. And often, this is the first time they've ever done it. So there's this level of anxiety when they come in. They stand there and they look at this about 80, 90-foot wall, and they're like, what do I do with all my art? And it's really fun to work with them. We help them set it up on the floor. We space it out, then we help them hang it. And all of that really helps to bring in their pride in the work that they do. They have input in how the work goes up and in what order. And it also helps them because Suzanne and I do a lot of that, as well as some of the other art commissioners. And we talk with them as we go through this process to help them feel a little bit more comfortable with their work and speaking about their work. So it's a really fun opportunity to work with especially with the brand new artists. So in the marketing, the role of the marketing committee is to unite artists, performers, and community members in a shared environment where creativity can flourish. The Springfield Arts Commission acts as a catalyst in the development of a dedicated venue for workshops, exhibition, performances, and collaborative projects. This initiative enhances accessibility and inclusivity in the arts while fostering local talent, enriching cultural life, and inspiring future generations. So to make this happen, the marketing committee has been focusing their effort on these 4 initiatives: the increased events attendance through communication and broader marketing boost over a broader area of social media. We have stronger community collaboration, improved collaboration between SAC and other local organizations, which strengthens partnerships and community presence. We're also working on greater artist visibility, effective advertising, and a wider distribution of promotional materials. We're also working on enhancing their reputation and recognition by consistently producing high-quality promotional materials and communication to support the arts in Springfield. Yes.
So when you talk about the marketing, is that something that is being paid for through a grant, or is that something that comes from the library? Is there like a line item in the library budget that's paying for this?
We have a line item in our the Arts Commission budget.
But I mean, how does the Arts Commission get their money? Is it through a grant or?
The Arts Commission is funded with TLT, transient lodging tax
Okay,
or
yeah.
transient room tax. They have an annual budget of approximately $16,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question.
But the marketing is done by volunteers and we just pay for the printing, so.
Good question. Thank you. We'll talk a little bit about the Heritage Arts Grant. Art plays, as we all know, art plays a vital role in fostering shared experience and bringing communities together and inspiring meaningful dialogue. We are committed to funding projects that encourage reflection, challenge perspectives, and create opportunities for connection. In this vein, the Heritage Art Grants is a funding opportunity for organizations and groups and artists to, within the Lane County, to help them do their performance and exhibitions within the community itself. As you'll see on the slide there are some of the grants that were handed out for last year. We have a total of $4,500 in grant funds available for the 2025 application cycle, with individual awards ranging from $250 to $1,500 per project. All right. A little bit about the community engagement. What happens here, instead of like single channels of support, we have multiple channels. In other words, we have a lot of opportunities where we overlap in ways that the subcommittees interact with our activities. So the burden isn't on one person, it's spread out amongst the members of the Art Commission. So we believe that engaging the community in our activities is crucial for fostering community cohesion, cultural enrichment, and strengthening social networks and promoting individual well-being and creative expression. And on the slide in front of you, there are some examples of some of the things that we've done last year and this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So here to talk about the public art is T, so she is the expert on that. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
4 years ago when I joined the commission, I took on the public art lead and got information from Daphne Mantis, who's also an artist. She had done a lot of work on restoration. So I inherited a priority list, which you see above. There were 5 murals that were very old that they had determined would be the priorities for restoration. Let's see. So the first one was the Jessie Bostel Memorial Mural. This was removed during my time as a commissioner, and it profoundly affected some community members, especially because it was done in concert with students and the labor union, Springfield Labor. It was a real bummer because it was on our list and we were not able to connect with the building owners before it was painted over, before they had purchased it. But the Springfield Labor Union, amazing organization. I had not connected with them before this, and they were like, what can we do? And so I was invited to their meetings, and they were like, we're going to fundraise for this. We're going to find a location. We'll get an artist. And they put all of this together in a very short period of time and created this new mural, which is on the A3 building currently. And so through this process, I learned that murals are a temporary artwork. We want to restore them and keep them vibrant as long as we can, but understanding that with weather, with changes, they there are issues with keeping them in perpetuity. The second one is the Oregon Trail mural by Anne Woodruff Murray. I had started on this one because I knew that Emerald Art Center was good to go with restoring this mural because we had to get permission from the building owners, and that was one of the big setbacks from Daphne's time. She had a lot of issues working with building owners. So when I started this, I looked at it's huge, and the cost they had some estimates done, and it was going to be $100,000 to restore this mural. So I worked with an artist to think about ways we could work with the budget that we have to do restorations over time. One of them was to pop the reds. So on the left is like an original close-up of the mural. And on the right, I kind of photoshopped in like, what if we just did the reds for 1 year and then we could do the blues for another year, just trying to think outside the box. And after consideration, I was like, let's start. Okay, so those are good ideas, but it's a big mural. And I decided to start with something smaller to just see what the process was and then come back to the Oregon Trail mural. Unfortunately, by the time we came back to it, there's going to be some building, like Beth and Steve told us that parking lot may have changes, and so to deprioritize that work at this point. The next mural was the Mackenzie River also by Anne Woodruff Murray. And that was one of the building owners that Daphne was like, he was like, no, 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 no. And I ended up talking to his daughter. He was getting older and we were gonna maybe be able to move forward on it, but her father was getting sick and she also didn't like the mural. So I was kind of going to work with her on maybe popping it. So because it had faded so much, it was hard to see what's going on, right? The original mural is amazing because she does these slats of, you know, every other slat is like the river and then a different scene. But again, unfortunately, the building was sold before we could work on it and it got painted over. The fourth one is the Moderns, painted in 1992. It was sorely needing restoration, and we contacted the building owner. They live out of state, but it worked out, and with a lot of help from Neil's office, Neil has been instrumental in supporting the public art component of the commission, specifically with the putting together the contracts and everything. We were able to get the go-ahead because this building had 2 of the murals that were on our priority list. And here are some before pictures. On the left, you'll see there was a lot of cracking and all kinds of damage to the actual stucco, not to mention it was faded. And then on the right, we had restored it in 2023. And it got the building owner to like want to spruce up that section as well, because she was seeing an influx of, support from the City of Springfield Arts Commission. So that kind of, made it look nicer. The other one on her building is the Draft Horse Logging by Brent Burkett, who's an amazing artist. I know him. And before it was really dirty and it was faded and there was marks on it, and we cleaned it up and it looks beautiful. So I was really pleased with the work of the person that we ended up using. And just as a note, mural restoration is not sexy. So you think, oh, artists, if we can get artists to do this work, it's not the same as painting something new. You have to clean it, you have to repair it, and you have to repair it in a way that is true to the original artist, which takes a different kind of skill. So it was hard for me to find somebody to do the work to the level that we wanted. and then putting on the coat. So that's just something for you to know. I learned all this stuff because I was like, I don't know anything about this. So through this process, we ended up making partnerships. Both myself and Adam, who is now the public art lead, we served on the SACA committee to promote a Springfield Arts and Culture Award with the Wildish. We've been communicating with, the labor union, organizations like Catholic Community Services, and local artists have reached out to us, interested in maybe doing some new murals. So we've been connecting with them. And we also supported Beyond Toxics and the missing and murdered Indigenous women through connections with Mindy. And they're looking at doing some murals as well. So quick overview, we lost 2 murals. One is on hold, which is the Oregon Trail. Challenges to restoration. The contracts are 10-year limits. And so technically a mural lasts 10 years and then the building owner can paint over it. But as you've seen, we've had many last much longer and murals have been a lot more resilient than we would have expected. There's weather, and then the technical expertise of finding somebody, and then there's the cost. But we did complete 2 restorations from murals from over 25, 30 years, 30-year-old murals. They look much nicer. And from the response of the Jessie Bostel Memorial mural getting taken down, I was even at Emerald Art Center one day and they were like, oh, this woman came in and she just burst in and she just started crying because she said the mural was gone. And so, and Daphne also, when the Mackenzie River mural went down, she was affected because it's something you see all the time. It's a part of downtown and certain people connect with certain pieces of art. Maybe there was a special event where, as a child, you were like, oh, this mural meant something to me. So they really kind of carry, it's like a part of the home that we live in. And to help counterbalance the loss of them because of the nature of the art, we hired a photographer, Don Gustafson. He actually is a local, and he photographed all of the murals in 2021 to have beautiful, so they look so he went out early in the morning on an overcast day, so it wasn't shady, and then there was no cars. And he took really high quality photos because I was thinking it would be nice to have an archive of it. And maybe eventually we could do something, make it available online. We do as an arts commission, we have web restrictions. We're not able to have our own website, which we would really love, so that we can share all of this and connect people through the arts, whether that's visual, music, performance, writing. So that's a barrier. But going forward, it's wonderful to have the support, to have the funding to make this a priority in Springfield. I'm actually from Cottage Grove, so I had the one seat on the Arts Commission that was for people out of the area. And this is a really great community. I've enjoyed working with all of the people and the different counselors, and I think Adam is going to take over. He's going to be probably working on future projects, and it may be like the mural walking tour guide that Neil did. It was a big success to help promote activity downtown, and to support the art that we have on Main Street. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're running a little short on time, but if somebody had Beth.
Just a quick comment. I just want to say thank you so much for the presentation and for being here tonight. As the council liaison for the Springfield Art Commission, I've had a unique, opportunity to get to know you guys and see firsthand how much time and effort and how dedicated you are to all these projects. And I know you all work really well together and you all handle a lot of things. So I'm proud of that. And it's not just putting, art into public spaces. You're really bringing the community together and supporting local artists and local musicians and really adding to the vibrancy and the creativity of Springfield. And I just want to say thank you.
Councilor Riley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing and your passion for this work just was it was palpable. And I know you're just two people from that commission, so I really appreciate that. And I really appreciated the the sort of call out of the bittersweetness of how public art does not necessarily last forever. And yet it affects us all in so many ways. And the flip side is that the continuing to create this public art does bring this civic pride and does encourage people to spend more time downtown and fix up their buildings and think about how they participate in that. And it's all part of the renaissance, I think, of downtown. So thank you all for your work, and please share that with the rest of your commission.
Councilor Doyle.
Yeah, I too want to thank you for that. You mentioned Cottage Grove, and I was actually on the council when the Dr. Pierce's pellets barn, that situation happened. And there wasn't anything as a council that we could do because of it being private property. And I remember that. So it was quite a loss for our community down there. The one thing I wonder about, and I'm not sure, is if the council actually gets to weigh in on kind of what the themes are on some of these. I think that we have to, as much as we love, having a vibrant downtown, we also have to be really careful that we're not being divisive and that choosing things that are controversial and that sort of thing. And I love that we've, for the most part, haven't done that in Springfield. And I'd like to make sure that doesn't, that doesn't happen, because we want it to bring us together, not tear us apart. So thanks.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. Great to see you. It's a lot of good work, and we really appreciate the time.
Awesome. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. The next item, 2024 Annual Use of Force Report, and feel free to bring a third chair, right? And let's, okay, you guys can raise it up. Oh, well, be sure to unmute the microphone.
Right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jamie Rush, the Interim Chief of Police with the Springfield Police Department. And thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to present the Springfield Police Department's 2024 Use of Force Report. These annual reviews are a vital part of how we learn and grow as an agency. They allow us to evaluate our actions, adapt our tactics, revise policies, and enhance training, all with the goal of improving decision-making and ensure safer outcomes for both our officers and the community. Sharing this data openly reflects our ongoing commitment to transparency and helps strengthen the trust that's essential to the effective and respectful policing. Our report outlines how often force is used, the types of force applied, injuries sustained by officers and subjects, demographic data, and recommendations for continued improvement. This information is not just a snapshot of past events. It's part of the foundation we're building to strengthen legitimacy, accountability, and public confidence in our department. Before we begin, I want to recognize and thank our professional standards team, both Sergeant Kyle Potter and Analyst Lily Wick. The report they will share with you is a product of ongoing thoughtful work. Throughout the year, they review use of force data not just for reporting, but to actively inform our training and policy decisions. Their dedication to transparency and continuous improvement helps ensure that we are learning and evolving as a department. I'd also like to thank the Springfield community for their continued support of SPD and to every member of the Springfield Police Department. Your commitment to thoughtful, measured policing has contributed to a reduction in force while still ensuring safety during the unpredictable situations you face every day. And with that, I will turn it over to Sergeant Potter to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor Van Gordon, City Councilors, City Leadership, for the opportunity to present the 2024 Springfield Police Department Use of Force Report. I'm Sergeant Kyle Potter, and I currently manage and supervise the Professional Standards Division at SPD. This division includes crime analyst Lily Wick, who is here with me tonight. I'd like to start off by acknowledging Lily's work on this report. Lily's work ethic and ability is second to none, and without her ability and work ethic, this report would not be what it is today. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the women and men of the Springfield Police Department. Their daily efforts, call to call, are reflected in this report. Without the line level troops putting into the day-to-day work on the street, we wouldn't have a report to share with you. So I thank them. Slide. 2024 is the third full year the Blue Team and IA Pro software has been used to compile this report. The software gives us the ability to compare data in an apple-to-apples format. We purchased software in 2021. That year was tough, and we were playing catch up with our data and numbers. In turn, the results were not as elegant as what we get to work with today. As any analyst will tell you, their work is only as good as the data they start with. Last year in the same presentation, Sergeant, now Lieutenant Myers, and Lily shared with you that SPD responded to more calls for service the prior year and used less force. This year, we responded to even more calls, and I'm proud to say that we used a similar amount of forces in 2023. In 2023, the Springfield Police officers responded to 31,119 calls for service. In 2024, that number rose to 31,931 calls. In 2023, the officers made 3,478 arrests. That number rose drastically to 4,113 arrests in 2024. In 2023, the force events were at 153 and only rose to 158. This was 812 more calls for service and 635 more arrests than last year. And SPD officers only had to use force in 5 more events. If you take anything from this presentation, know that SPD continues to get busier while managing to drive our use of force events down. For 2024, the format of this report largely remains the same. This is intentional. We want to be able to compare the numbers year to year and identify trends in the data. Once identified, trends can help shape equipment, training, and our policy decisions. Some of you may recognize this slide. It's the same as last year. The routing method has not changed either. When a member of the department uses force, they complete a blue team entry. That entry then is sent to their supervisor for review. While reviewing the force, the supervisor then attaches police reports, photos, body cam, and any other necessary data that they think needs to be added to the entry. The module is then forwarded to the division lieutenant, who also reviews the force for compliance within policy and the law. If there is no concerns with the incident, the module is forwarded to the IA Pro database. The use of force at that point has received its 2 levels of review, and Lily and I review it for completeness. If at any point during the process, additional review or investigation is required, professional standards is consulted, and the incident can be addressed accordingly. The additional review can range from consultation with a subject matter expert, an internal administrative investigation, or even a criminal investigation conducted by an outside agency. Anyone along the review chain can raise an issue and forward the incident to PSD for further investigation. Slide. One thing to note as you review the data contained in this report, we count each application of force by each officer as well as each force option. This is why you see higher numbers than the total numbers of force events, and I'll take you through this slide to explain it. So this is one incident that involves 2 officers responding to a call. During the incident, with one subject, the first officer, Officer 1, uses a takedown, which is counted as 1 force application. Officer 1 also uses a hand strike, which is counted as another use of force application. During the incident or the use of force event, Officer 2 uses 2 hand strikes. That totals 4 use of force applications in 1 event. That's why the numbers of use of force applications is typically higher than use of force events. The next slide is going to be on the use of force trainings we did for the year. We continue to pursue trainings related to force. The slide breaks down further the hours we spent. You can see crisis negotiations and crisis intervention training continue to be at the front of our training program. Crisis negotiations is a form of de-escalation. SPD has a team trained to communicate with people in crisis. The goal for this specialized team is to resolve volatile situations without SPD having to use force. Crisis intervention team training provides law enforcement with the tools to better deal with people who suffer from mental illness and/or addiction. Each SPD member is required to attend 40 hours of CIT training with the sole goal to promote officer and community safety by using less force. Looking at this graph, you also might wonder what mobile field force training is. With 2024 being an election year, we wanted our officers to be ready to face potential protests and crowd management situations. These situations are always difficult and pop up with little warning. This year, the Portland Police Bureau came to Springfield and trained our officers how to better respond to large groups of people. PPB sharing their vast crowd management insight with our officers was extremely valuable. This next graph is going to talk about force types we use and then displays of force as well. The large bars on the left are low levels of force. The low levels of force consist of control holds and simple displays of force options to generate compliance. It's worth noting that some, if not most agencies, do not even consider a control hold a use of force or even track shows of force. A control hold is a minimally intrusive application of force used to separate, guide, and/or gain control of a subject. Control holds and shows of force make up 65% of the force shown on this graph. We have the mindset that more data is better. It's easy later to filter out data, but collecting or recreating that same data down the road is much more difficult task. The next slides speak to our use of force numbers for the year. Lily works hard all year complying and analyzing these numbers. She will walk you through these next slides and what she found for the year.
All right. Good evening, City Council and City Leadership. Before I get started, I do want to talk a little bit about data collection and the importance of having good quality data and a good quantity of data. City Manager Newton brought this up last year, and I think it's an important topic to address before I dive into the next few slides. So there are rules in statistics and mathematics about how many data points you need in a sample set in order to approximate a normal distribution and be representative of an overall population. We do satisfy this criteria, and we do get good data, a good quality of data, and a good quantity of data. However, but when we break down the data into these smaller subsets, outliers tend to have a greater influence on the statistics and the numbers that you'll see. So this will contribute to some of the variance that you'll end up seeing in this report and in the next few slides. So with that, getting back to our slides, on this slide, we have 2024 force data alongside 2023 force type data. As you will see, we had more control holds and more takedowns than we've had in previous years, but our controlled tactics team did put on a training in the April-May timeframe that covered control holds and controlled takedowns. So we would expect to see more force usage in alignment with what we're training. We also had more pushes and shoves in 2024. This option was added in Blue Team in the latter half of 2023. So we don't have a full year's worth of data for last year to compare to, but moving forward, we'll obviously have full year's worth of information, and we'll be able to determine what an expected or average number of pushes and shoves will be. Here we have force type effectiveness as rated by officers. Effectiveness is a very subjective measure and depends on what the individual officers deem as being a successful or effective use of force. So for example, an officer in one situation may consider a takedown successful if he or she is just able to get the person into a better position. The subject may still be resisting in some way, but the officer reached his or her goal by putting them in a better spot. Another officer in another situation may deem the same takedown or a similar takedown successful or effective if it resulted in total compliance. So it is a very officer and situation dependent metric. One thing I would like to mention as well is that some of these effectiveness numbers may seem like they've drastically changed from one year to another. Like I mentioned before, for force types that aren't used very often, maybe they only have 1, 2, 3, or 4 uses. One more effective use or one more ineffective use is going to drastically change the overall rating for that force type. So overall, officers rated their force effectiveness pretty much exactly the same in 2024 as they did in 2023. So as Potter mentioned earlier, SPD officers went to about 800 more calls for service and arrested about 600 more people in 2024 compared with 2023. That being said, they were only involved in about 5 more use of force events. Similarly, SPD officers took in about 30% more police officer holds in 2024, but they were not involved in any more force events compared with last year. I do believe that these numbers are a testament to our officers' efforts at using non-force tools such as de-escalation. They're out there doing the work and answering calls for service, but their rate of use of force has actually decreased.
Can you remind us what a police officer hold is?
Yes, it's a non-criminal mental hold. So if someone is a danger to themselves or others, you might be able to explain this more from.
Exactly right. So if someone's a danger to themselves or others and they won't go voluntary, we make them go to the hospital so that they don't hurt themselves or someone else.
All right, thank you.
So on this slide, we have subject injuries. Consistent with how we've reported and presented this information in the past, we've defined injuries into these 4 categories: minor injury, moderate injury, serious injury, and death. These definitions take into account the severity of the injury and the treatment that the subject receives, not just the general description of the injury. So for example, if I tell you that I have a laceration, that could be anything from a minor scrape to a gaping wound. And we felt that it was important to account for all aspects of the injury, the type of injury, the severity of it, and what treatment is received when discussing injuries related to officer use of force. So as you'll see, last year, there were 52 use of force incidents that resulted in injury to the subject. In 2024, there were 43 force events that resulted in injury to the subject. And we had no use of force events that resulted in either serious injury or death to anybody. Also, these are injuries and treatments directly related to the force that was used. So if a subject is taken to the ground and they suffer a minor scrape or an abrasion or a strawberry that normally wouldn't really require any form of treatment, but they're taken to the hospital for a diabetic emergency or a heart condition, that injury is still considered minor because the treatment received, the hospital visit, isn't directly related to the force that was used. Another thing that I would like to note is that injuries related to takedowns decreased in 2024 compared with previous years. Like I said before, we had a takedown training specifically focusing on control holds and controlled takedowns. And I do believe that this decrease in injuries from takedowns is indicative of our officers using the techniques and the tactics that they've used in their training. Moving on, here we have officer injuries. Officer injuries are a little bit different. These are also directly related to use of force. So if an officer is running up a set of stairs and they twist their ankle and sprain their ankle, that is not going to be represented here. We also don't categorize them the same way that we categorize subject injuries. Officers are not required to tell us what their injuries are or what treatment they received. It is their medical information, and it is an optional thing for them to include in their blue team. And some injuries develop as time goes on. So for example, an officer that uses a takedown and during that takedown feels a twinge in their knee, at the time that they finish their report in their blue team, they may mark it as a complaint of pain, but maybe a few days later, the pain continues, it escalates, they go to the doctor, they find out they tore something. That internal injury is not going to be represented unless they come back and they want it documented in the blue team. Nonetheless, we had a very slight decrease in the number of officers who were injured as a result of using force. And I will say that we did not have any serious injuries or deaths related to officers using force. Moving on to 2023 recommendations. So this slide covers follow-up from our last year's recommendation section. Recommendation 1 revolved around de-escalation in relationship to uses and shows of force. In 2024, our blue team system added a data entry option for officers to include what types of de-escalation they attempted during these situations. It was not a mandatory thing for them to enter, but officers included it about 60% of the time. Moving forward, this has been made mandatory, so officers are now required to include it. However, given that force situations are dynamic and vary from situation to situation, we recognize that it is not always safe, prudent, and feasible for officers to use de-escalation, so that is an option for them to have in there. So Appendix 2 of the report has a basic overview of some of that de-escalation data that we got from last year. But in looking at these numbers, we have developed some additional questions about how de-escalation plays into either the use of force or the lack of use of force. These near miss force events are very hard to track. These are events where force would have been used if de-escalation was not used as effectively. They're very, very difficult to track and very subjective. Nonetheless, we have some additional follow-up that we'd like to do regarding this, and I'm going to talk about it on the next slide. So recommendation 2 revolved around the review of shows of force and low-level uses of force. Over half of our force events last year were either shows of force or low-level uses of force like control holds. These events that are deemed within policy that don't result in a complaint and don't result in injury are reviewed at the sergeant level still, but then they are forwarded directly to professional standards for the second level review. This allows our lieutenants and upper level command staff to focus on incidents that either result in injury or result in a complaint or are found to not be within policy. Recommendation 3 revolved around a very simple data collection element. We've basically simplified the use of force entry process to make it more efficient, both on the front end, on the officer side, and on the back end, my side. It really has no effect on what's presented in the report or how we count anything. Moving on to this year's analyses and recommendations. Recommendation 1, we noticed that there were more force applications used during roughly the same number of force events. So this goes back to what Potter was talking about several slides ago, about how there could be 1, 2, 3, 4 different applications of force within one event. So we would like to look into this to see if there are any correlations between this increase in applications, the injuries sustained as a result of force, and the techniques that we covered during our training. So if we train a control process that involves a push, a takedown, and a series of control holds, that may involve more force applications than we previously used during similar circumstances, but that whole process may end up resulting in fewer injuries and instances that don't escalate to needing strikes or taser discharges or any of the other higher level force options that our officers are able to use. Recommendation 2 revolves around the resistance types that you'll find on page 7 of the report. We do pay attention to this data element when analyzing force, but we did realize that we haven't had formal definitions on these options, and the officers' selections, what they're choosing in blue team, might not be reflective of exactly what we're thinking and what those definitions are. So we're fine-tuning that list and developing clear definitions for those which we're going to train our officers on. And then moving forward, we'll hopefully have better data to look at. And our goal with this is to say, well, if officers are encountering fleeing suspects a lot, what kinds of tools and training points can we incorporate or adopt to help in those scenarios? Our third and final recommendation is what ties back into the de-escalation recommendation from last year. We'd like to dive into that more and look at scenarios where de-escalation was used successfully to either effect an arrest, or take someone on a police officer hold, or just resolve a situation without using force. We have no doubt that officers are out there using de-escalation on a daily basis on pretty much every call. But like I mentioned, near misses where those de-escalation tactics work and we don't have to use force are very hard to track. But if we can, for example, look at all armed subject calls that didn't result in force, we may be able to find tools or elements or trends that we can implement elsewhere. That is all I have.
That's going to conclude our presentation. I'd like to thank you all again for this opportunity to give you our presentation. And we welcome any questions, comments, or suggestions for next year.
Counselor Stout.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. I remember this report from last year and even though I wasn't on council yet, and it's really encouraging to see the numbers change and I'll continue to improve service. So thank you guys for what you're doing. Kind of a two-part question, and I don't actually need an answer on this, but just for your consideration and question. Kahoot service level might change. And so I'm just curious, what do you expect the burden to be on the officers? Are you expecting an increased burden for de-escalation on the officers? And so what are some of the things you are thinking about as far as either tracking that or equipping your team even more so? And then I had this other thought, which was, what kind of community members would you want to engage to assist with de-escalation? Because I know there's a number of people that are not comfortable with de-escalation, but there's a number of people that are. And I'm just openly asking the question, are there community members that could be involved with the de-escalation process? So that's all. Thank you.
I can speak to that if you want. I mean, I think we're absolutely worried about losing Cahoots, at whatever extent we lose it. I think it's kind of something that's happening, and we don't really have a lot of control of it, and we're definitely concerned about it. I also think that back to our trainings, the CIT training, that's kind of what along the lines of what Cahoots does, and we're going to continue to train on that and hopefully give our officers the tools to do similar things that Cahoots does. The community member one, I'll have to think on that. It's an interesting question, but it's a good suggestion. We'll think on it. Thank you.
Councilor Rodley.
Thank you so much for this report, and I am appreciating the depth and the nuance every year. It's just getting more nuanced, and we're leaning into the data more, and I really appreciate that. I just particularly wanted to call out the addition of some of those nuances like non-binary, which is something I asked for and I really appreciate, so thank you. Instead of just complaining, I want to thank you for doing that. And I think it's important to do that. And then I also really like, and I think you were touching on it a little bit at the end, of now that we're gathering this data and seeing what's happening, of trying to figure out who and what is going well. And like you said, it's really hard to track, but I love that we're starting to look there, because by leaning into all of that training, I think it's really helped to give people more tools. And I know we have officers that are doing better and doing well that other folks could learn from. So I really appreciate that. Now we're like, okay, let's look at what's going well and how do we start to replicate that out. So thank you. Thank you for continuing to stay focused on this. This is something that is very important to me, and every little bit of improvement we make, I think, improves the way people feel about living in Springfield. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Blackwell.
Yes, thank you for this very thorough report. Every time it comes up, it makes me think of the day that I got sworn in on council, because it was my very first meeting that I went into. And so this is my third time seeing this, and I really appreciate it. I know that each year it's gotten better and more fine-tuned, and it will continue to do so as you collect the data and the information. Something else I think about when I read through it, though, is all the possible situations that the officers can find themselves in on a daily basis, and the decision making that they're doing also on a daily basis, and some of it split-second decision, and just seeing that the numbers have really stayed so low, even though the call volume has increased, really speaks a lot, I think, to the leadership and the officers themselves, and just the culture of the department. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming with this report. I remember the first one, right? It was a pie chart on a sheet, right? And, I always want to remind folks about, like, we, as a community and as a department, you guys approach this with a very curious mindset and very open-minded, and frankly, a little constructively dissatisfied. And every year I see it continue to evolve. And I think that is really helpful. And what I'm starting to hear is the data is cleaned up, which really stuck out to me, is you're starting to ask the second and third level questions, right? What corresponds to time? How does Cahoots roll into it? And that really spoke to me. The two questions I did have is on page 8, you had a chart that showed sort of perceived weapons versus actual weapons. And I wanted to make sure I read that one right. So, like, if I used the firearms as an example, there's like, we're only perceiving we're only getting it right 50% of the time. Is that the way to think about that?
It's kind of what the officers thought at the beginning. So it may be that they had something that looked like a weapon or
Okay.
something, but yeah, that's their perception. And then what actually turned out to be. That's correct.
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
And I think this is more of a regional question, right? I know that data, especially around use of forces, right? Every department uses its own standards, and it's very hard to compare us because of sort of size, how we measure it. Different departments have different services. Is there any discussion that's going on regionally about just how to think about the data standard around how do we match count use of force?
I mean, I'll let Lily speak to if she talks to any other analysts, but I know that like in designing kind of how we report on it and stuff, we do look at other agencies and what they do report. Obviously, we want to make sure we're industry standards and meeting that. But one of the things that we did note is that a lot of agencies don't report on like control holds and shows of force. And we chose to do that because it tells a story, right? It tells a story that a lot of times shows of force are very effective. So we're constantly looking at other agencies, but to my knowledge, there's no regional like group looking at like kind of unifying how force is reported.
I think that'd be good. I think that'd be something for all the
Yeah.
agencies to be on the same page so we could look at the numbers the same across
be
the board.
helpful.
And it's not, and by no means am I arguing that we need to have a regional standard at this
Yeah.
point. But I think just having that cup of coffee and conversation around how do you even, like, this is a really tough problem. And, you know, when we talk about getting to the second and third level questions, right? More smart, brains always helps it.
For sure.
And the other thing I vaguely remember from a previous year is the injury report corresponded to use of force, like that you had broken it down by actual uses, and it didn't seem like it was there this year. Like you grouped them, right? But I may be thinking of the 2023 report where you sort of said, hey, if the officer reported, a control hold, there were 5 injuries related to a control hold.
Yes, and that definitely was something that was included in previous reports. But just kind of from internal conversation, it seemed like a confusing item for some people. And so it's definitely something that we can provide. But it seems like, especially since so many different force types are used on a single event, when we were reporting that, a control hold resulted in like a broken arm or something, that was kind of confusing, I think, for some. And there's definitely an explanation for it, and we are able to explain it. But I think we left it out just to kind of not like, I guess,
It was
To
difficult.
tie- yeah,
I was gonna say, it was
simplify it,
simplifying
yeah.
And it was like hard to say that this one application caused something. Some are very clear, some are not. And so it was hard to make sure that that data was good.
I think that is a solid call to continue to simplify the data as it becomes more rich. I think the thing that stuck out for me, and as long as you can at it, internally, I'm 100% okay with that, is there were certain uses of force that really seemed like they corresponded to a high incident of injury. And as long as you guys are looking at that depth, like there were a couple, and it was a year ago, I don't remember what they were, but they really stuck out to me as something where it's like, okay, not only are we using it, but it's more likely that people got hurt.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that is why I did want to discuss, like, when we got to the subject injuries, is that takedowns resulted in fewer, because that was something that we had looked at internally and noticed that after our training, our injuries associated with takedowns did end up decreasing. So
Yeah. And lastly, I just want to compliment you on just the quality of the report. I like that we have a broad definition and we put as much data into this as possible. I mean, I think it gives us more options and tells us more stories. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I think that was it for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And then I'm going to adjourn the work session. We are going to stay on this link because we are going to the JEO next. I'm going to call the regular session of the Springfield City Council to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Counselor Weber.
Here.
Counselor Moe. Here. Counselor Rodley.
Here.
Counselor Blackwell.
Here.
Counselor Doyle.
Here.
And Counselor Stout.
Here, thank you.
I'd like to open the Lane County Board of Commissioners regular session and call for roll call for the commissioners. Do we have Commissioner Trigger on board?
Present.
Commissioner Buck,
Here.
Vice Chair Seneca,
Here.
and Commissioner Farr is absent excused tonight. Thank you.
Tonight, we are holding a public hearing on the matters of adopting amendments to the Springfield Development Code for text amendments to the Campus Industrial District and the definition sections. The Springfield City Council is meeting jointly, the Lane County Board of Commissioners, because of county commissioners, because these items require joint adoption.
My script says next to renew the Pledge of Allegiance. What script do you have, Mayor?
I have one where you're calling for the disclosure of any.
Okay, there you go. So you skipped that. All right, good. Yeah, we're going to call for disclosure of any commissioner abstentions due to conflicts of interest or biases, and we'll call for the board's qualifications to hear the matter. Do we have any qualifications or discussions that need to happen? I'll call a roll call. Commissioner Trigger?
None to declare.
Thank you. Commissioner Buck?
Can I ask exactly what kind of disclosures would be substantial here in the past? Generally, things having to do with land use in joint council meetings with the City of Springfield. We disclose some real estate, and I'm wanting to know if that's the similar situation in this regard.
This is Rob Bovet, County Council. I'll chime in. I think that would be the safest mode, even though I think this is a legislative action. I get concerned about a failure to disclose ethical issues. So if you have any disclosure there, I'd urge you to make it just to be safe, even though this is a legislative matter.
Okay, so just to be safe, I'll make sure I disclose that I do hold real estate in the City of Springfield. I don't think that's a conflict of interest in this case, but just to declare that up front. Otherwise, no other disclosures. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Buck. Vice Chair?
I have none.
And the Chair, Commissioner Lovell, I own commercial property in downtown Springfield and own a development company called Masaka Properties. I have a potential conflict, but none to declare other than that.
As we begin our meeting tonight, there's a designated time for public testimony for the public hearing. If you are attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located at the entrance of the City Council chambers and give to the city recorder. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak during the public hearing, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows: anyone in the City Council chambers, and then anyone who has raised their virtual hand. I'm going to open the public hearing on an ordinance amending sections 3.2.400 and 6.1.100 of the Springfield Development Code, adopting a savings clause and a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
This is a second reading and public hearing on ordinance 25-03 in the matter of amending lane code 10.600-15 to co-opt amendments to the Springfield Development Code Campus Industrial District sections 3.2.400 and 6.1.110 and adopting a savings and severability clause and providing an effective date. I hereby open the public hearing.
All right. Now we're to the part where we're going to ask the City Council to declare any potential or actual conflicts of interest.
I just want to give a reminder that a potential conflict of interest in this case is one where you or your family member, household members, or a business associated with one of you could financially benefit or avoid a detriment by these code amendments. These code amendments only apply in the campus industrial zoning district. And so the council is not considering anything that would affect residential zoning, community commercial, or other zones outside of the campus industrial district.
All right, thank you. We'll start down with Councilor Blackwell.
No potential or actual conflicts of interest.
No potential or actual conflict of interest.
With an abundance of caution, I'm going to declare a potential conflict of interest as a property owner in the Gateway area.
No potential or actual conflicts of interest.
No potential or actual conflicts of interest.
I have no potential or actual conflict of interest.
No potential or actual conflicts of interest.
All right. Please have the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, Commissioners. First, I'd just like to say this was a bit of a bumpy ride last week getting this to this point. So I wanted to thank the county staff and particularly our city manager and city manager's office and Allison for helping get us to this point. So I apologize for making a bit of a rough ride on everyone and the applicant as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to have a PowerPoint brought up. So the requested code amendments are actually being initiated by a property owner, which is a little bit unusual with all the state mandates and staff presented code amendments that council's been seeing over the last couple of years, actually. And this area of North, we call it the North Gateway of Springfield, that it has the purple stippled pattern, is the extent of the current campus industrial zoning. It is not completely built out and arguably not completely buildable, with portions of this area being within the mapped flood hazard area of the Mackenzie River. Early colonizers of the campus industrial district included Sony Disc Manufacturing, Symantec, Royal Caribbean. Unfortunately, all these businesses have since departed, and the Symantec facility is now occupied by Pacific Source Health Plans. The former Sony manufacturing facility is now the Riverbend Annex. It's Peace Health Labs. And there has been an evolution toward medical services and medical related industries in this area. Notably, these are target industries for the city of Springfield. There are 2 existing business parks within the campus industrial district. I'll just advance the slide. Sorry. This includes the Mackenzie Gateway Business Park, which is on the western border, and the Hawes Financial Group Business Park, which is the applicant this evening. There was a 3rd business park approved in this area back in, I believe it was 2007, early in my career with the city of Springfield. That was the Liberty Professional Center, and Liberty Bank was seeking to build its headquarters there, as well as 4 lots that were to be for other tenants on the site. Post-2008 economic recession, Liberty Financial Group folded. The area remained vacant for about 15 years. Still on the microphone. The Latter-day Saints Temple has now initiated construction. So the requested text amendments to the development code are specific to business parks. They're specific to the needs of the applicant in seeking to fill tenancy space within their building. The argument of the applicant is that the existing code provisions are too limiting in the types of office use that can be accommodated within the business park. They're looking to expand upon the uses of offices that generally serve the public, which could include local, state, or even federal agencies, such as the IRS or Oregon Department of Administrative Services. Not necessarily generating a lot of pedestrian traffic or customer traffic, but they do serve the public. The other aspect that the applicant is looking to add to the business park provisions is medical clinics. Medical office space is seen as a priority and an opportunity with proximity to the Sacred Heart Medical Center, which is just literally blocks away. There is a robust transportation system in this area. There's bus rapid transit. We have a fully developed road system, and the applicant is seeing this as the best avenue forward to get additional tenants into their space. Post-recession, post-pandemic, the specific requirements and need for office space for like for corporate headquarters and other types of traditional office users has waned, and so they're looking to try to basically fill the building. And this is the way that they're seeking to make those expanded uses allowable within the campus industrial district. What this proposed code amendment is not is facilitating hospitals. It is not applicable to anything but business parks, and there are currently only 2. Should another business park in the future come forward for development, if there are code amendments that are incorporated into the campus industrial district, that business park would be able to take advantage of the expanded code opportunities and enhanced tenancy opportunities as well. The applicant has submitted a transportation analysis that you have in your packet. It looks at the reasonable, most traffic generative use that could be created on the site under the proposed development code text amendments, and found that it does not have any appreciable impact or significant effect on the local transportation system or key intersections. So those are important findings that you will have in your packet this evening. Aside from that, you have testimony that was submitted previously, testimony that was submitted also today that questions the applicant's proposed text amendments. It questions whether the analysis for facilities and services and also transportation have been adequate. Staff would be happy to answer these questions, but the applicant also has key and important points to make as well. So they will be providing, I guess, more detailed and specific comments to this development code text amendment proposal. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions? Councilor Doyle.
Thank you. So first off, there was a lot to go through on this, and we got it on Thursday evening, and it was Easter weekend, and I got a call saying, hey, have you looked at the stuff? And so I had a very little time to go through so much. And then we even today on my thing, I've got an 18-page document and then another 9-page document. So I'm kind of uncomfortable with doing anything with this tonight, just to bring that up front. But are there any regulations involved in these changes? I didn't see any on the business park that have anything to do with like the hours of operation, or do they allow like a business to run any time of day or night during those, or is that something that would be regulated in these new changes? Because I didn't see anything about that, so maybe that's already covered.
My recollection is that the only limitations apply to medical clinics and medical facilities, and that would not pertain to any other operations. So it would be my understanding and expectation that there probably are some 24-hour operations in the campus industrial district overall. FedEx, as an example, is there. Pacific Source has they have live people to answer the phone. So I don't know. I mean, they have, I guess, traditional business hours, but Peace Health Labs, it's reasonable to expect that there may be some 24/7 operations of some sort. But the intent is to capture them entirely inside a building and not have any sort of outward conspicuous noise or evidence of the activity. And so it's sort of self-regulating by the application of the city's development code and the type of activities that are allowable in that district. And so the applicant has specified in their proposed code amendments that if there are medical clinics or medical facilities, they're not going to be urgent care. They're not going to be emergency care where there'd be ambulances responding. It would be the more traditional physician's offices, chiropractic. There may be specialty types of medical professions that would potentially locate there. I guess it remains to be seen what might locate there because the opportunity is not yet provided for them to locate. So it depends on the market demand.
Okay. And then is it difficult to create a business park if somebody wanted to come in and buy property in that campus industrial? Is it a particular?
Like the other predecessors, they would have to go through, I guess, at a minimum, a site plan review. We would expect there would be more than 50,000 square foot type of a proposition. So more than an acre, which would trigger site plan reviews, which is a discretionary process subject to public notification. And someone would have to come in with plans to explain exactly how their transportation demand is going to be met, how the utilities are going to be provided, and all the different services, the nature of their operations and the characteristics, and how it fits in with the development code provisions, either existing or proposed. Okay. So a business park could come in today, pre-code amendments, and also seek approval based on the the type of operations that they're proposing. No one has come in since 2008 for a business park.
Okay, and in 2022, when there were some changes made to the SDC, which always seems like system development charges to me, but Springfield Development Code, it appears that there wasn't any changes to the business park designation. Was that intentional, or was that maybe an oversight? Because it led me to believe that maybe they wanted it to stay the way it was.
I guess there was no incentive. There was no reason at that time to make those changes because it had, I guess, fairly narrow application. And it wasn't until the applicant came forward to indicate that there was a problem and that they were seeking some type of recourse in order to allow their building to remain full and viable. And that's what the reason for the code amendments. And they did go initially with a proposal to rezone the site to a general commercial, which, as some of the respondents have noted, is becoming more of a, there's a perception it's becoming more general commercial. That would open a can of worms, literally, to zone a site that's embedded within the existing campus industrial zoning, general commercial, because anything that's allowable in community commercial zoning, which can include used car lots or convenience stores or, fuel stations, all that sort of thing, could be potentially allowable on the site by the zoning. So that was not something, an avenue that staff felt would be viable in this case. So a surgical approach to specific to this type of facility, this type of existing building or business park on a site, what can be looked at as allowing for expanded range of tenancies and operations within the building to keep it viable. And that's what the applicant is proposing.
Okay. Yeah, I can completely understand and see the logic and why they want to do that. I just feel like there's just so much and that we got such a short amount of time. That's my only concern with this. So I appreciate it, Andy. Thank you.
And I guess crystal balling here, I don't think there's any reason to expect that anything's going to be concluded tonight. In fact, it's reasonable to expect that this would be concluded at a future date. So there's additional time for council because there is testimony that was just submitted today. Staff and the applicant have the opportunity to rebut that. They have not seen it and have an opportunity. So there's no rush to get this concluded this evening. So thank you.
Commissioner Trigger, please, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Perfect segue from that last comment from staff. I have not had a chance to read the testimony. It came in too late in the day today for me to have a chance to do so. But I see, if I'm not mistaken, your Planning Commission recommended approval. Is that right? And then the question is, if I read that correctly in the packet, was there anything substantive offered in the testimony that might change a recommendation? Is there anything that your Planning Commission may have considered that the testimony provided counter to what they applied in making that recommendation?
Commissioner, I believe that the Planning Commission heard similar arguments to what are being offered to council and commission tonight, the commissioners tonight. And in fact, the hearing was held over and continued multiple meetings. And it came to the point where the Planning Commission felt that they had to come up with a final recommendation and not have a perpetual revisitation of the amendments that the applicant made. The applicant did point out that there was one proposal. They made numerous amendments to that proposal to accommodate the testimony that was provided generally in opposition to it. However, it was pointed out that there were not competing proposals. It was one proposal. And so again, what you have before you is the recommended development code text amendments as presented by the applicant, as reviewed and as amended subsequently, and then approved for presentation to the City Council and the Board of Commissioners for consideration. That does not mean there could not be further amendments, but that was a moment in time decision that the applicant had gone to great lengths to accommodate the arguments without essentially undermining their own opportunities at the same time for their business park.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor?
I think we are ready for the
Mayor?
Oh,
So I've got a comment. Chair always has to go last, so I have to keep my hand raised. Yeah, I'd like to ask a couple of things, Randy. Andy, as a business owner and someone who's trying to fill their spaces, I can certainly relate to that as the constituents that I represent that have come to me and asked me some of these questions. You know, market conditions and vacant space are due a lot of other things rather than just zoning. They're due to economic things, political stances, current markets, interest rates, all the other things that are there. But I want to make sure that when we're using these terminologies of specifically business parks and campus industrials, that the two don't mutually exclude or include something that's not intentional. Because as you know, most of these folks that brought into this vision of this campus industrial complex did so with millions of dollars of their own money in their business and located there for reasons that they get value from. And I want to make sure that the constituents that I represent in the future are not possibly losing some of that value that they bought into by allowing some of this zone. Now, I personally went over to the building today, the Haas complex, and walked around there and toured that. And as you know, as probably most people in the public don't know, there was a restaurant in there for many, many years that was Willie's. It was a destination point, and that restaurant's probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet that's now vacant and out of there. And that's the space they're trying to fill with clinic type operations. So, what my constituents are concerned about is if this is allowed in there, does that also lead the way or make a way for the campus industrial parks to allow the same sorts of uses that they may not have bought into when that vision started to allow them to move there? Do you understand that long question?
I do.
Thank you.
And I guess I'd point out that some of those uses are already allowable as secondary uses.
Correct.
So in this case, it would be, again, limited to business parks. So it would have to either have originated or be converted to a business park, some type of a development. And as I mentioned, there's currently only two. It does not preclude there from being another one, but it just seems the type of model of a multi-tenant kind of lease space business park it's just not in the foreground right now, it appears. However, it's an opportunity that would be afforded a development down the road should it exist. And I think that the specificity of the types of uses and the kind of range of uses and they're listed as like a secondary use in a business park precludes the types of uses that may be of concern to some of the campus industrial users about other types of facilities, which would require a heavier lift. I'll use the Life Point Hospital as an example. Its type of operations and characteristics did not allow for it to go into campus industrial zoning, either under the existing conditions or proposed conditions with a business park. That was a comprehensive plan amendment and zone change of 5 acres of vacant Peace Health property, and the hospital will be under construction at Game Farm Road and Maple Island Road. And that was a medical services zoning, and that was done through an extensive public process at the Planning Commission and the City Council. The types of facilities that the respondents tonight have provided testimony about would have to go through, I guess, a similar type of situation. So that is completely different than what is being discussed this evening, which is a fairly narrow focus on business parks and I guess an existing building, and that's why that's deliberate on the part of the applicant.
Okay, great. Specifically to that narrow focus, let me just narrow focus one more question if I may.
Sure.
On your specific changes to business park, when you go into paragraph J1, item D, when it specifies about the uses of clinics and urgent care centers and outpatient services, is there limitation to hours within those things, or are those hours that can operate up to 23 hours, or is there a specific hour of limitation that those are going to be limited to? Because it's kind of ambiguous in that particular comment.
And I guess I'd have to defer to the applicant on that, because I know that there was some examination about what the operating hours were of kind of medical professionals. And in the absence of urgent emergency care, that tends to shorten the hours significantly. I guess I'll use my wife works at a medical clinic as an example, and it's a 9 to 5 type of operation. In fact, it's a little bit shorter than that because they condense all of the patient visits in a fairly short amount of time. There's nothing to suggest that this is going to become a major medical facility, but it's an opportunity site where there could be a practitioner that would have business hours where, for example, a dermatologist or a chiropractor or someone would have, I guess, a narrow operating hour range, Monday through Friday, business hours, when people would come to see them. That's typically the type of medical practitioner that would be, locating in kind of a setting around the Sacred Heart Medical Center. And again, without the urgent care, it's not going to be walk-in traffic type of thing. That was deliberate on the part of the applicant, is to not make it a storefront type operation.
Great. Well, I appreciate that because I heard nothing good happens after midnight and I don't intend to go see a dentist after midnight. So I appreciate that very much. Go ahead, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I believe we're ready to hear from the applicant. And as a reminder, could you state your names and address for the record?
So my name is Andre Phelps. I'm with Andre Phelps Law, 375 West 4th Avenue, Suite 204, Eugene, Oregon. I'm here representing Haas International, and I'm here with Teresa Bishop.
Yes, I'm Teresa Bishop with Bishop Consulting.
Thank you, commissioners and counselors. So I think that Andy's done a wonderful job tonight, and I think both Lane County staff has done a great job also in their reports. So I think mostly we can rely on that's in your packet. I know it's a lot to read. So and this is a process that has had a few iterations, but so mostly tonight, I think what I'm hearing, I would like to respond to some of the questions. So this idea about the limiting hours, I mean, we've really tried to consider that issue. And one iteration, we did have limited hours, but that really wasn't something that can, if you put in a clinic and it's open an hour late, then it gets closed down. How does that work? This sort of thing. So it didn't really work with staff. So what we've done is sort of try and address that with this idea of inpatient versus outpatient. And inpatient is something where people have stays, where they stay the night, they have a bed, they're in a room for a long period of time. So now maybe technically it could be open in the middle of the night, but you can't have urgent care. As Andy mentioned, you can't have these emergency facilities. There's no ambulance coming in. And so really, it sort of limits that. The idea is really just to allow clinics. And one thing that I don't think has been mentioned is that, to the east, you have Riverbend and all these medical services that are in that area, but you also have them to the west in the commercial zone. So you have eye doctors, you have that kind of thing. So it's really just, it's coming, right? It's coming into this area. So what we've tried to do is sort of really limit that availability, but still allow it, because if not, you're going to see more of these medical zone rezones that are coming in, because that's really what the need is. So I think, again, this is not site specific. We know that this is really to benefit the Haas building, but it also can benefit the entire area, because as you'll see in the materials, that even though there's been this substantial infrastructure improvements and investment in this area, you still have, from the Springfield staff report, that about 45% of the overall campus industrial acreage is vacant or underdeveloped. So that's a really, really important piece of this, that this is just trying to sort of keep step with the times, right? To move with what's really happening on the ground there. So, but we also want to say that this proposal, as you heard, it does open up, well, it clarifies basically that the uses can be open to the public, and that just in business parks, that allows educational facilities, government offices, and some limited medical uses. But it still continues to prohibit the big box retail uses, the auto-dependent uses, storage units, and it still continues the secondary uses of restaurants, cafes, and retail, which is what the Haas building was approved for. And then you still have all the industrial uses. It doesn't touch any of the industrial uses. So, and it still maintains the characters of the CI district of enhanced landscapes, large open spaces, and pedestrian amenities. So the look and the feel of it still remains the same. What it doesn't do is this all the as I just said, that the standards still exist. So all of the landscaping, the maximum building heights, the minimum setbacks, those are all still the same. But it does not convert this area to a commercial, general commercial district. It does not convert it to a medical district. And it was really important to us because we wanted to still I mean, we have been built out as a campus-like site. It's 7 acres. We have an 81,000 square foot building. We have sidewalks. There's a roundabout. It's really a nice facility. So really it doesn't change that. It doesn't have big trucks coming in. It doesn't have, it doesn't have ambulances coming. It's still going to be, people that are coming there to, let's say it is a medical clinic, just to get to see a doctor, right? So it still limits that to inpatient use. It still limits it, as we said, to no urgent care facilities, no hospitals, and no residential type of facilities like a residential care facility. So I think I'll just finish. Was there anything else that we wanted to add, Teresa?
No, I think that's
Okay. That's good. Great. So I just want to finish by recognizing staff support. This has been a multi-month process. We've been going down and and we just urge you to adopt these code amendments as the City of Planning Commission has proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next card I have is Michael Chilardi. We're going to go through all of them and then we'll get a chance to. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, commissioners. For the record, my name is Mike Gilardi. I'm legal counsel for Richardson Sports. For the record, my law firm's address is 4710 Village Plaza Loop, Suite 165 in Eugene. And, as you heard, we did submit a package of information this afternoon, and G Group did as well. We didn't intend to submit that at the last minute. As we were under the impression that this hearing was going to be postponed until Friday, we found out that it was going forward. So we scrambled a little bit together. So I apologize that you're getting all this stuff at the last minute. I want to try to go through it as efficiently as I can. Looks like I'm on the clock here. I had a map there. It's Exhibit A to our materials that shows really how the medical uses are, how the zone is trending towards a medical dominant zone. There are things that have already happened there. There are things that are in process there. And, this proposal would further open the doors to medical uses. The city and the county have made over 30 years of consistent planning decisions that say flatly, explicitly, that this zone is primarily a light industrial zone. And given everything that has happened, is currently happening, and would be allowed under these new rules, it would become a majority medical zone. It's just flatly inconsistent with the comprehensive plans. Say a little bit about what's being proposed. What the proposal that's on the table does is it redefines a business park. You've heard, well, it's only limited to business parks. Well, business park is being redefined. So any single office, any single clinic, any single educational facility becomes a business park. And so not only are all those uses allowed, but the property is allowed to have secondary uses like retail establishments, like restaurants, like daycare facilities. And the city just hasn't planned for that. The city hasn't done the public facilities planning for that, for turning this from a sort of private manufacturing employment-based zone to a public use zone. The city hasn't planned for police, hasn't planned for sanitation, hasn't planned for traffic. The only traffic study that's been done is specific to the Haas property. It's not about the traffic that would be generated throughout the neighborhood from these changes, and that's what's required by state law. So the fact is that the proposals on the table just doesn't meet state law. We've proposed what we think is a compromise. Part of that compromise is hours of operation on clinics and limiting clinics to secondary uses and not primary uses. To date, Haas hasn't been willing to agree to that. They want to be primarily a medical facility. We don't think it's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the last card that I have. Do we have anybody who's raised their hand online?
We appear to have no hands online.
Okay, and if needed, does the staff have any response from the testimony? That's okay. I will pause. Okay, does the applicant wish any response? The applicant's conferring. Do you,
Again, my name is Teresa Bishop. Regarding the difference between a primary and secondary use, imagine you're doing a 5,000 square foot physical therapy office. Are you going to sign a 5-year lease that will be null and void if a different tenant in the building vacates? With a secondary use, you can't go it alone. You have to have a partner that's a primary use. So that's one of the inherent flaws with treating any use as secondary. It's dependent on there being an existing primary use that's operating. So we strongly encourage you to retain or support the Planning Commission's recommendation that clinics be allowed, restricted to those that don't provide overnight stay, and as primary use. Then the real estate transaction can be for that tenant as a primary tenant. It doesn't mean that you can't still have secondary uses or even accessory uses, like a parking lot that's shared among the tenants is considered an accessory use. But anyway, that's all I wanted to speak to, the difference between a secondary and primary and the risk inherent with any secondary use going into a business park. We just believe that it's very important that the list of uses that are considered primary are expanded to enhance the vitality of these business parks.
I just want to take one moment on something a little bit minor. This idea that this is a private, that these shall be privately owned and no public use. So this light industrial uses do have some public use allowed in them. So if you read the code, you'll see that that's the case. So when we say clarify that the public can come to this area, it's because for business parks, it's a little bit vague. So this is only just clarifying that. We're not trying to change that. And I think the other thing about the hours is that this being an industrial area, they're open all hours of the night. So it's not as if this area just shuts down and nobody's there. So even if you have clinics that are open later in the day, it won't be just this one or two buildings that are bringing in people from outside at that time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So this is the time for the council and board to ask clarifying questions of staff, the applicant, or persons who have testified. Is there something that the council or board would like more information about, or any questions before we close our hearing? And before we do that, Andy, it sounds like you did not have a chance to read the documents that we had that came in later this afternoon.
I did have a chance to read them. I believe that I would observe that there was some extraneous materials, some unrelated materials that were included as exhibits that were related to a potential behavioral health clinic or hospital, another type of facility, a stabilization center, which is not anything to do with this application, but it was appended to one of the submittals. So I just want to point out and clarify that that is not part of the discussion this evening. So I do not see anything new or I guess illuminating from the respondent's testimony this evening or what was submitted earlier today. However, in light of the commissioners and counselors perhaps not having opportunity to review everything, certainly there's no expectation that maybe you could look at, I guess, putting off deliberations to a different meeting to allow for additional testimony and rebuttal by the applicant.
Christina.
I did note that there wasn't a request to continue the hearing from one of the members of the public, but there was a communication that there was an on again, off again message. And so if the council and commission want to continue the public hearing to May 5th, that would also give you an opportunity to ask questions of people who have testified this evening at a time when you've had an opportunity to review the materials. So that would be an option. And if you do that, then that would sort of end the proceedings tonight and you could come back and ask those questions on May 5th.
Okay, and would the hearing have to still stay open if we're going to ask the applicant and staff to respond to the material that we receive?
Yes.
Okay.
This is legislative, so the applicant doesn't actually have a final right of rebuttal. You can ask questions of the applicant at a continued hearing. You can also ask questions of other people that have testified if they are in the audience of that continued hearing.
Okay. Then I'm going to open this up for questions and to kind of see what people want to do, if they want to close the hearing or if we want to continue it till the 5th to give us a chance to go through the material.
To the board? Yes, Councilor Bovet.
I'll just say there also is another option. You could actually close the hearing, but still continue the matter for deliberation to decision to May 5th. So there's really kind of a third option. But other than that, I agree with council.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, there was some confusion about meeting dates and a lot of information. I understand Mr. Girardi's point, but I also have a couple of questions that I'd like to do a little more research on my own. If we were able to keep this open until a time certain, May 5th, that would appease me.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. This question is for council, so thank you for that. So it seems to me, if I'm reading the digital room, folks want to have more opportunity to discuss and deliberate before taking any action. The question is, do we keep the public hearing open to allow for more testimony and or conversation about testimony versus close the public hearing but move deliberations? And if we do the latter, we still get to hear from staff and hear their assessment and response to testimony. We just don't get new evidence into the record, essentially. We just work with what we've received to date. Is that a correct distinction?
In part. So you'll want to, at a minimum, leave the record open, continue it to May 5th. Or you could leave the hearing open as well to potentially hear from members of the public, which might very well include the applicant. It just depends on whether you want to close the public hearing. It sounds like I'm hearing a pretty broad consensus to kick it over to May 5th. So the decision is whether or not you close the public hearing. But in either event, you want to leave the public record. You want to leave the record in this matter open. But I also defer to City Council if she's got a different take.
And the record being open allows people to continue to send written testimony. There just isn't presented testimony in real time. And that way staff can analyze and respond and we can ask questions. Okay, thank you.
Correct. But I'd also defer, since this is a joint meeting, I'd defer to City Council if she has anything she wants to add or change.
The only clarification being that is consistent with everything that you've said, Council. The City Council and board can't ask questions of the applicant. So staff would have to be able to answer those questions. And I'm not sure what the nature of those questions are at this point. And I'm also not sure if the counselors or commissioners know what questions they might have of the applicant. I think that's a little bit of what I'm hearing. My preference would be to continue the hearing to May 5th rather than have questions on May 5th for the applicant that then we have to reopen the hearing potentially without, even though it's legislative and there's more freedom, that seems less clear to me.
I agree 100% with that.
Okay, I'm looking around for, I hear a lot of head nods to keep this thing open until May 5th. Do we need a motion to do that or can we do that by consensus? I don't know what the county's gonna do.
For the city council, I think that you can by consensus state the date and time certain that the hearings continue to.
Decide it's nods too. All right, the Springfield City Council public hearing is continued to May 5th, 2025 at 7 PM here at the Springfield City Council chambers.
To the board, what's our consensus here to the board? Do we want to make a motion or do we want to tag on the top of the city and propose this May 5th for keeping the public hearing open? Commissioner Buck, comment?
I agree to whatever the city wants, if we want to keep it open till May 5th. So I don't have any changes or any other requests personally.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Trigger?
No, I just want to clarify the mayor suggested keeping having another hearing, basically, not just keeping the record open, but closing the hearing. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Continue the hearing. And so my recommendation at this point would be that you mirror that and then you continue the hearing to a time date certain, May 5th, and I forget the hour already. And that my ultimate preference, I know this is odd, but my ultimate preference is to have you actually vote on that.
Right. Yeah, we typically do in ordinance and land use. So I'd be happy, Chair, when you're ready with that motion, as long as staff can confirm the date and time certain for me.
It's May 5th at what time, Council?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. So same time. So May 5th at 7 p.m. So we get a motion to continue the hearing in this matter to May 5th at 7 p.m.
Stand by just for a second. Vice Chair, you want to weigh in?
I agree. Yeah, let's move everything to May 5th.
All right, Commissioner Trigger, you're up.
All right, well then, Chair, I move that we keep the hearing open and reconvene on this matter on May 5th, 2025, 7 p.m. time certain.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Any
I guess,
discussion to the
sorry, I should add ordinance number 25-03 for the record.
All right, writing as fast as I can. Good deal, 7 p.m. And so I have a motion made by Commissioner Trigger and a second by the Vice Chair to keep the hearing open for ordinance 2503 for a reconvening of May 5th at 7 p.m. in agreement with Springfield City Council. Does that sound right? Okay, all those in favor will take the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Farr absent excused. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Chair Level, I just want to confirm that we did get the language in to approve the second reading and continue the hearing and set the third reading.
We
Make
did
sure
not.
That's all.
So let's redo that to keep the hearing open and approve the second reading.
Jared, are you saying you want me to actually read the motion that was in the packet?
Yeah.
Do that. So then I move to approve the second reading and set a third reading, continue the public hearing to May 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m. time certain on ordinance number 25-03.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So it's been moved and seconded to keep the hearing open and approve the second reading for a third reading for ordinance 2503 slated for March 5th, 7 p.m. Any discussion to the motion? Probably not, because we didn't have any for the first time. So let's take the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Farr absent excused. Thank you very much.
I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the city council.
And we'll adjourn the county. We'll adjourn the county as well. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lane County. All right, everybody. I'm going to call the regular session of the Springfield City Council to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Councilor Weber.
Here.
Councilor Moe.
Here.
Councilor Rodley.
Here.
Councilor Blackwell.
Here.
Councilor Doyle.
Here.
And Councilor Stout.
Here, thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There are 2 times designated for public testimony this evening under public hearings and business from the audience. If you are attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located in the front of the city council chambers and turn it into the city recorder. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak during those times, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows: any person in the council chambers, and then anyone who has raised their virtual hands. And before they call the first item, I promise it is the Earth Day art. Thank you so much for your patience. We had a land use hearing go a little bit longer than expected, so we really appreciate it. Call the first item, please.
Yes, item number 1 is Springfield Upbeat, Springfield Earth Day Art Competition. Thomas Gray is here for this item.
Well, good evening, council, and good evening, everybody. It is time for our annual Earth Day art competition. This is a contest that the City of Springfield Stormwater Team and the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission use every year as an opportunity to educate fourth grade students in Springfield Public Schools about Earth Day, and specifically about water, its value as a natural resource, and the effect that pollution has on water. So our theme this year for the art was Our Water, Our Future. We received participation from classes representing about 250 students. And with staff voting, we narrowed that down to our top 20 semifinalists. And with the mayor's help, we narrowed that down to our top 5 finalists. And that's who we are going to recognize tonight. Unless there are any questions, I'm just going to go ahead and begin that, since everyone's been so patient. Okay. For our finalists, when I call your name, you can come down here. We will hand you your art and we'll take a photo with Mayor Van Gordon. Yes. I'll let you hold the certificates. Okay. In 5th place, we have Annabelle Childs. Yes, parents, if you'd like a photo, you can sneak up and grab one real quick. We will be making these photos available to you as well, so don't feel like you have to take one with your phone. Okay, in fourth place, we have Aaliyah Gonzalez. Looks like she might not be present tonight. In 3rd place, we have Hannah Spencer. Okay, in 2nd place, we have Robin Kraz. Yes.
There's a lot of it there.
Thank you.
They got one real quick.
Uh-oh.
And in 1st place, for the first time ever, we had a collaborative piece between Daphne Kursky and Alva Shepard.
Gorgeous.
Okay, and we'll get one group photo, and if the council would like to be in this photo, you are welcome to move into the background here.
We are in our picture. You broke it.
Probably.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our finalists and thank you, council.
Thank you. I feel more free to sleep. No, it's me.
Family, you're welcome to stay if you want to.
Hey, that was my line. We are not going to take it personally if you. Thank you so much. All right, next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is the consent calendar, and we would like to pull item 1, the purchase of radios for police officers, which needs a little more work and will come back to the council at a future date.
I move approval of the consent calendar with item 1 removed.
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber.
Yes.
Counselor Mo.
Yes.
Counselor Rodley.
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell.
Yes.
Counselor Doyle.
Aye.
And Counselor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes, 6 yeses, 0 nos. Next item, please.
The next item is public hearings. Your first public hearing is a request for street name change Kiev to Kiev Street, and Tom Severs is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. I am Tom Severs, Senior Planner with the current Planning Section. Tonight, the Council is requested to consider an ordinance to rename Kiev Street in the Uke Village subdivision in West Springfield. Prior to the hearing, staff received written comments from 2 area residents. Those comments were printed and should be in front of you now. Sorry, one moment. I have a couple slides for you.
How many slides did you need? I'm sorry.
Just the 2 slides that were submitted in the AIS. It should just be street name change presentation or something to that effect. That is it. Thank you. All right. So the proposed street to be renamed is outlined in red. Kiev Street is a 60-foot wide urban standard roadway that is approximately 180 feet long and serves 3 residences. Senior leadership received a consent petition signed by the majority of property owners on the subject street requesting that the name be changed. Upon conveyance of the petition to the Common Council through executive agenda review, the planning manager directed staff to prepare a recommendation. All right. The street was originally dedicated in 1978 through the Uke Village subdivision plat, meaning that the street has been in use with the current name for approximately 47 years. The spelling of Kiev, K-I-E-V, reflects the Russian-rooted name, which was seen as acceptable through the Soviet era, which coincided with the time period that the subdivision was platted. In a modern context, it is viewed as an erasure of Ukrainian identity. The municipal code directs the renaming of streets, as there is no approval criteria in the development code. There are naming policies to ensure duplicate names are not generated and that other functional standards may be reviewed. There are also standards at Municipal Code 3.2483C that council must consider in their decision. In response, staff found there is little perceived inconvenience to the existing residents as the change from Kiev to Kyiv, K-Y-I-V, is functionally for spelling and pronunciation changes only. The street will remain recognizable to those using it by this modification in spelling. Lastly, public need was identified through the citizen petition calling for renaming of the street due to the modern context of the sociocultural climate in Ukraine and will reflect the correct geographic name of the Ukrainian capital city of Kyiv. Because all applicable standards have been satisfied, city staff recommends that the renaming of Kyiv to Kyiv KYIV be considered for approval by council. Thank you, and I'm here for any questions.
Are there any questions before I open the hearing? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. I've got a lot of cards for this item. So if you want to come up as I call you and say your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Actually, I'm going to call you 2 at a time just to make this a little bit easier. We have 2 spots, and then we can do them in groups of 2. Cheryl Kimbo and Linda Gonzalez.
Excuse me, Mayor. As they're coming up, I neglected to read the actual ordinance into the record. Wouldn't mind if I do that real quick before they start?
Sure.
Excuse me, this is ordinance number 1, an ordinance renaming Kyiv KIEV Street in the Uke Village subdivision to Kyiv KYIV Street as platted and recorded in Book 73, pages 98 and 99, plat records of Lane County, Oregon, in Township 17 South, Range 3, west of the limit meridian. And again, this is a first reading.
And I will open the public hearing. Come on up. Okay, so you're going to push the button down until it turns green. And then we're going to start with Cheryl. And then when we're done with Cheryl, we'll go to Linda. And you state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Perfect.
My name is Cheryl Kimbo, and I live at 1472 Kyiv Street. We are one of 3 homes that have that Kyiv Street address, and my husband and I fully approve this change.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Gonzalez, and I live at 633 Poltava Street, which is adjacent to Kyiv, and I approve this change.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next 2 is Catherine. Can't quite tell if it's either Catherine or Katrina. Kathy, come on up. Sorry about that. And Candace McDonald. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, I'm new at this. So my name is Kathy Johns, maiden name Pashechko. I am from Ukraine and I approve it. My folks came from there. And I live on 565 Poltava, sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Candace McDonald. My address is 1491 Diamond, and our house backs on to the Kyiv street houses. And I'm just passionate about my neighborhood, and I want to support my Ukrainian neighborhood as much as I can. I'm for this.
Thank you so much. The last 2 cards I have are Charlotte B. and Andrew Shore.
My name is Charlotte Bim, and I am a 30-year resident of this neighborhood.
You bumped it off.
Okay, I think I live in the best neighborhood in Springfield or Eugene. This place is terrific. We have very little turnover. And we're close to downtown and the Willamette River and the Calapooya Talking Stones and the Willamette Natural Area. It's a wonderful place. We have a lot of pride in our neighborhood, and part of what makes the neighborhood great is the Ukrainian church. They're wonderful neighbors, and I live on 731 Poltava Street, I didn't tell you that, which is another city in Ukraine, and I've always been really proud of that our neighborhood has this identity, and I'm really for this change.
English is my second language, so I do apologize for if there's something that you would not understand. My name is Andrei Schuler, and I'm the author of the petition that started the process. And I would like to make this statement. So dear members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. Nearly a century ago, Ukrainian community made Springfield their home. They built a vibrant community neighborhood with the Ukrainian church in this heart. Today, this Ukrainian church is on the Aspen Street, as you mentioned, in the neighborhood. And they left their mark in the landscape by honoring their homeland land and left the legacy of for future generations. But when these names were first established, the transliteration of Ukrainian place names into the Latin alphabet was filtered through Russian linguistic conventions. For decades, Imperial Russia and later Soviet Union used the language as a tool of control. Their aggressive cultural policies meant that Ukrainian names were Russified and exported to the world that way. As a result, people around the globe came to know Ukrainian cities by their Russian language spellings. Kiev instead of Kyiv, Kharkov instead of Kharkiv, Lvov instead of Lviv, and Odessa instead of Odessa. This wasn't just a linguistic quirks, it was a legacy of dominance, and that legacy persisted even after the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Harmful ideas like this are like everyone in Ukraine still speaks Russian, or even worse, Ukraine is just a former part of Russia, which is not true. Things started to change since 2014 after the Revolution of Dignity, and then on through 2019 through diplomatic missions and media outlets, including the UN, the US government, and the European Union. World-renowned media outlets like New York Times or the BBC or Associated Press officially adopted Ukrainian spellings. So you know this story. I wouldn't take much of your time. I would just say that why is it important for Springfield, Oregon? Springfield is a town that honors immigrant roots. The Ukrainian community has been part of this fabric for nearly a century. Updating the name of Kyiv Street is a small local action, but has a powerful resonance. The Ukrainian American community here deserves to see the heritage reflected accurately. Using the correct name, Kyiv honors the identity and affirms their contributions to the town's culture and legacy. Kyiv Street in Springfield is a tiny street with few houses, but that's exactly the point. It sends the message that justice doesn't require scale, it just requires principle.
Thank you. Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the last card I have. Do we have any hands online, Neil?
No hands online for this item.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and see if there's any response. Councilor Rodley.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out here and waiting around to share. I know that this has been a couple years in the process because I remember initial conversations around this. And so I really appreciate you all moving through the process and giving, I will just speak for myself, giving me the opportunity to meet the neighbors who have come together to sort of support. I have been to the festival at the Ukrainian church a few times. Love it. Fantastic food, by the way. So just I think that the identity of the people who've moved here to Springfield and have taken such ownership and who have become so integrated into our community, and just I am very happy to see this coming to us because I know it's been a long time coming. And thank you for coming out and moving through this. So thanks.
There's no clapping during a council session. I know it's all the new rules, but anybody else? All right. There's going to be no action tonight because it is a first reading only, so you have to wait until the 5th. But one of the things I do want to say is thank you so much. The Ukrainian community is a big part of the story of Springfield. And everybody tells stories about growing up at that festival. I just want to tell you that I appreciate your contributions to our community very, very much. And this is just a small gesture. And thank you for coming out. Thank you for sticking with it. I know it's been a little bit of time, but I'm glad we saw it this evening. Next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is business from the audience.
I don't have any cards or business from the audience.
I see no hands for business from the audience.
All right, next item, please.
Next item is a resolution. Resolution number 1 is a special procurement for Springfield Home Repair Program. Sandy Belson is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandy Belson. I'm a Comprehensive Planning Manager, and with me is Amy Ori. She actually administers the home repair program. So I'm here tonight to explain the changes that we would like to make to the special procurement process. And that is, we've had the special procurement in place for several years now, and in working with the contractors over the years, it has become apparent that the way that they do business doesn't always exactly match how we want to have them invoice us with time and materials. There are certain industry standards such as diagnostic tests or where they have flat fees for service, and to expect them to do it on time and materials has caused some back and forth on the invoices. So we've tried to work with the contractors and come up with a way that we can simplify things for them, still maintain competitiveness and public steward of being efficient with the public's money, and believe that we've come to a good proposal for your consideration this evening. Thank you.
Are there questions? I am ready.
Yes, I gotta turn on here. I move to approve a resolution of the Springfield City Council as the local contract review board amending a class special procurement for Springfield home repair contracts approved under resolution 2018-22 and adopting findings in support.
Second.
Any discussion? You call vote, please.
Yes, Councilor Weber.
Yes.
Councilor Moe.
Yes.
Councilor Rodley.
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell.
Yes.
Councilor Doyle.
Aye.
And Councilor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes 6 yeses, 0 nos. Next item, please.
Any business from the city council?
Any additional business? Oh, sorry. Councilor Doyle.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a quick report on my attendance at the Springfield Utility Board meeting. It was brought to my attention, not eWeb, the good utility board. I just wanted to bring up a couple of quick items that they discussed. One is that they had a long discussion on recruitment, because apparently Jeff is retiring next year after a very, very long stint with Springfield Utility Board. And so that was something I just kind of wanted to mention. And then the second thing is that there was a request by Judge Tierney for Smart Court for a donation. He was asking to help out with the new recruits, or people that have graduated with those initial bills when they're trying to get set up, trying to, there's a lapse in between finding jobs and what have you. And the customer service staff recommended a one-time contribution of $6,000 to go into that program. It would have been a conditional contribution that didn't have any stipulations of future, outlays on that. Unfortunately, the board said no to it, and I was really disappointed with them. I know their reasoning had to do with the fact that they have a current program that does help people who are in need, and that there's an amount that they allot to that. But I just want to thank the staff for being willing to consider that. And yeah, so anyway, that was unfortunate, but it is what it is. So thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next item, please.
Next item under business from the city manager is item number 1, ratification of contract with International Association of Firefighters, the IAFF 851, representing the firefighter labor contract. Candace, Stefan, and Chief Caven are here with this item.
Good evening, Council. My name is Candace Stefan. I'm from Human Resources, and I am here seeking thumbs up, thumbs down on whether or not the city manager can sign the contract for IAFF 851. And Chief Capen is here for questions.
Questions? All right.
Very high maintenance tonight, Mr. Mayor. I move to authorize the city manager to ratify collective bargaining agreement with IAFF.
Second.
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo, Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
and Counselor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent, and Counselor Mo had to step out for a moment. Next item, please.
Next item is the ratification of contract with International Association of Firefighters, IAFF 851, representing the battalion chief labor contract, and Candace Stefan and the chief are here for this item as well.
Again, same story. Here for thumbs up, thumbs down on whether or not the city manager can sign off on the battalion chief contract that we hopefully have finished negotiating.
Okay. Questions? Let's see. Any questions?
I move to authorize the city manager to ratify collective bargaining agreement with IAFF.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Please. Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
and Counselor Stout.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes 6 yeses, 0 nos. Next item, please.
Any other items from the city manager?
Just one quick comment. Yesterday marked my 5th year of service as your city manager, and I just want to say it has been a crazy last 5 years when you think about everything that has happened worldwide and in our nation and our community. However, I continue to be so honored to be your city manager here in Springfield, and delighted with the community and the professionalism of our employees. Our neighbors from Ukraine here is just one example of many, many stories that I encounter every day of what makes this place so unique and rich and welcoming. So I just want to thank you, Mayor and Council, for working alongside me, and thank you to this community for choosing Springfield and making it better every day. Thank you.
Counselor Rodley.
Has it been 5 years? I think we're both on the 5-year train then, because we came on around the same time in the midst of COVID. So thank you for sticking it out with us. And I'm so glad you're here. And I feel like we've made a lot of progress and more to come.
Thanks, Nancy. We appreciate having you here. And of course, it is the best career story ever. Don't start a new job 1 week after a pandemic starts. But we appreciate all your hard work. Before we adjourn, Chief Caven, hang out for a second. Councilor Mo brought something up for you, but we'll adjourn first. All right, we are adjourned.